Okay, let's take a quick look. Oh, there you go. That's the way to jack the car up without having to get a jack out. Let's put these tools away. You might have seen my universal bonnet prop in action a few times over the last few days. Well, the good news is our friends at Amazon have delivered, man. Chinesium. Not that I care. The car doesn't justify genuine original equipment parts, but there you go. 2 more bonnet props, gas straps. We'll put those on when we get back. Alright, let's take this baby for a little drive. Can't leave those on there. There for now. There's the pump. Ooh. There's the pump I took off. I'm not going to scrap it until I know that that was the problem. You won't know that that's the problem until we've taken her for a little drive. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Right, so we want to neutral, switch off the low range. We're in high range. We want to set the ride height back down to normal. And relax. And stuff, it massively improved the response from the engine, the performance from the engine, the total power output, everything about the engine improved like that, which is what I'd expect. I took it for a little test drive yesterday. I actually took it on an errand to go collect some stuff and drive back, and it let me down twice. Not in a sort of dramatic, oh my god, call the AA way, but in the same way it has been, which is it goes oh chug, and then it's the engine goes into a limp mode and then turns itself off. Go right to the side of the road, whereupon you switch the engine off, switch it on, switch it off, switch it on, switch it off, switch it on, which is all about priming the pressure in the low pressure side of the fuel system. And then it works. Until it doesn't again. Nice engine. Do I like this engine? This particular car. You know, I've had lots of sliding around, but had lots of M57 powered Range Rovers. This one's actually really nice. 189,903 miles. According to the limited service history I have for this car, it's the original engine, but it had a new turbo on it 100,000 miles back. About 10 years. That was like an official dealer stamp and note. It's nice to know that the turbo's only 100,000 miles. I mean, some people will say 100,000 miles is fucked. Throw it away and fit it in one. But I tell you what, I'm not going to. I have looked at the turbo. wiggled the end of it and spun it with my finger, and it passed all those tests. But also, I've had a look in the pipes to the intercooler, and the intercooler is not filled with oil. And that is a genuine, like, okay, this turbo's good. Unlike the turbo on the Rough Rover, which is oil consumption via the turbo is almost as high as its fuel consumption. Actually, it's not true, but I mean, it's enough that it's very noticeable. You get a pump with the on-plug, the intercooler hose that is like, it's dripping with oil. I suppose it's been converted, but it just tells you that the seals on the turbo are screwed, and if you piss in oil through there, somewhere down the exhaust or somewhere down the inlet. So we're going to do a rebuild on that turbo. I've got a spare turbo. I'm going to do a rebuild on a spare turbo, and then I'm going to put it in the Rough Rover and hopefully fix that problem. And what we're doing is we're just going to take this car. I think I've just got exactly the same drive I did yesterday. My little, like, 3-4 mile errand. It was enough to get the engine up to temperature, and it was enough to make it fair. Driving carefully, we're just going to drive. And unlike yesterday, when I took it out, I do have tools with it. So if it broke down, I can do something. Not that expensive, because every time this car has broken down, I've fixed it with an ignition kit. Brakes are cleaning up, but still feel really rough. But it hasn't done many miles. In the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've done about 10 miles on this car. Yesterday, when I test drove it, before it let me down, I pulled away from a set of traffic lights, just like we do, and it was so enthusiastic about putting the power down, I actually got 4-wheel chirp from the wheels. It's like, that never happens on a 2.5 ton Range Rover with an M57 in it. This engine actually runs really nicely if I get a fuel quickly sorted out. I'm beginning to wonder if it's been remapped, and it's almost impossible to discover that without just getting one of those guys who come out and remap your car to come out and put the original map on it. I don't mind remapping these as long as it's not too much. People complain about the gearboxes on these. It's got this 5-speed GM box on it, and they all say this gearbox is really fragile. That's not actually my experience. These gearboxes, as long as you make sure they get the occasional oil change and you look after the drivetrain in general, these gearboxes don't actually fail. I've known of one where it was the torque converter that failed. But the torque converters are overrated for the power of the engine, so that was just it failed. The reason everyone says that these these gearboxes are fragile is because the manufacturer's stated power for this gearbox is on the limit of around 200 horsepower that this engine can produce. Now, in the stock form, as your Range Rover comes out of the factory, it produced about 170 brake horsepower at the flywheel. A lot less than that at the wheels. It was like 20 brake horsepower per wheel. on some of the 535s and things like that, which were producing 270 brake horsepower. And they were using those gearboxes in unmodified form. Now, someone like BMW is not going to do that if they suspect they'll fail, because they underrate everything, because they don't want failures. That's what all car manufacturers do. So, and the gearbox gearbox manufacturer would have sort of overbuilt, underrated the gearbox as well, because they don't want a manufacturer coming along buying 100,000 gearboxes and then getting 99,000 returns on those. They just can't afford that liability. So when they say this gearbox is rated at 200 brake horsepower, for example, that is their guaranteed lifetime normal use. It will go for 200 brake horsepower. If you run it significantly higher than that, you're going to shorten its lifetime. Just wear and tear, it's going to happen. But you can overcome that by regular oil changes and things like that. So I wouldn't be concerned about that. I think the reason people think that these gearboxes are fragile is because on a 20-year-old car, nobody has serviced the gearbox in the last 10 years. And then you buy it, and the first thing you do is rag it down the road, take it off-road, and the gearbox goes bang, because no one's bothered to look after it for 10 years. I think this is where, if you can find a car that's got a sort of properly documented service history, and you've got all the stamps that say, oh yeah, it had its gearbox oil change every 60,000 miles or whatever, you've actually probably got a good car. If you don't get a service history with your car, and you're worried about it, just do a gearbox oil change. It doesn't cost very much. You can take it for a power flush, they'll charge you about 350 quid or something, and that's quite good because it also flushes all the pipes and the coolers and everything else. And also it doesn't, they don't need to disturb any of the gasketing or anything like that. They don't even need to take the sump off. So if the gearbox is dry and it's not leaking before you have the power flush, it will still be dry and not leaking after you've had the power flush. So there's actually a lot of mileage in saying go for a power flush for 350 quid. I've had it done. It does transform the gearbox. It'll just feel like new again. But then just climbing underneath it, taking the oil pan off the bottom, pulling the filter off, putting a new one on, putting the oil pan back on, and filling it up with oil again, running through the priming routines. It'll cost you, the cost of the oil is like 30-40 quid, and the filter, whatever, you'll get the gearbox serviced for like well under 100